Hey guys, what's going on? Hope all is well. I'm here doing another video for you about some of the reasons, some of the top reasons, in my opinion, you should be excited about Tesla stock for the future. Uh, the first one up today is the Chinese Model 3 production was confirmed to be around like 4,000 cars a week. So once they're hitting that kind of scale, they're really getting a pretty high margin on every car sold. And just having them produce, like we talked about last time, in the same country that they're being sold leaves so much less lag between getting paid for the vehicle um, bef- after paying for parts and stuff. And then also the high end vehicles, the Model S and X, they had a $5,000 price cut for those cars. Those cars have been lagging in demand for the last like 12 to 18 months ish. So they're super high margin vehicles. They would kind of like to sell more of them, but they don't have the demand for them. So I think that the $5,000 price cuts will be huge for the Chinese market over time. I think, unfortunately, the illness and everything that's going on with that has probably slowed that down a little bit. Um, I also think the Plaid powertrain and the Roadster, the new Roadster, the Plaid powertrain will be in the Model S and probably the Model X. Those vehicles will be like supercars and will be sold at a really high margin. They'll be good for the flagship kind of brand appeal of Tesla. Like it'll still have like that upper middle class to luxury feel. Whereas like the Model 3, now that you can get one out the door for 35,000 and you can get autopilot included for just under 38,000, it's losing, in my opinion, a little bit of the how Apple kind of likes to keep like the more expensive um, appeal to them. So even though everybody's encouraged to have an iPhone, it is still obviously kind of a status symbol. Um, so I think that they don't want to lose that too quickly. Uh, I think Q3 and Q4 for 2020, worldwide production and deliveries will probably be huge improvements upon last 2019's Q3 and Q4. So I'm thinking, and there's another YouTuber, Tesla Daily. Um, he's thinking I'm kind of in line with him. I'm thinking that Q3 will probably be. I think he has like 140 and 190 or something as his estimates for Q3 and Q4. I'm thinking maybe like 150 for production and deliveries ish for Q3, and then maybe Q4 we could get even to like 219, 220, um, which would be huge. I mean, that'd be almost double what they did Q4 of 2019, you know. Um, so that would be kind of like proof of concept that they could do, annualized 4 quarters out, a million cars, or at least close to it, because right now it's still about proving people and analysts wrong about the production myth that they're just never going to reach scale. They're never going to be able to produce cars um, at a rate that the other manufacturers are, like 10 million cars a year, 20 million cars a year. Like there are still some analysts that question the ability of Tesla to reach that volume because it has been some growing pains along the way. Um, but I'm not really worried about that. I think that will come with time. They just need more factories. So actually, I'm really hoping that they end up raising money from issuing stock, because if they issue stock at like $1,300–$1,400 a share, it's not going to dilute shareholders. You're barely going to notice the difference in the value of your shares, but they could raise, between 2 billion to 10 billion and the snap of a fingers with barely letting even 100,000 more shares out the door, which is you're barely going to notice the difference between the value of the shares that you own and now they're worth marginally less. Like it's not a big deal. It's definitely worth it to grow the company faster. Um, I think that the autopilot software revenue, um, they're releasing more features. So as they release the features, they can grab that revenue from like a deferred revenue line. As they take that money, the margins on all the vehicles will steadily increase. I think also zero emission vehicle credits, that'll be a big deal this quarter. And probably the next like several quarters, they'll probably be getting like 250 to 500 million a quarter just from uh, those credits. So that could be the difference between profitable and not profitable. And it's money that they're just getting for producing electric cars when other car companies aren't producing enough and they got to buy the credits from them. I think Tesla's overall software revenue generation will grow. I think that eventually they'll do like some sort of app store that would be crazy profitable because they could do the same shit that Apple does, where they just take a little bit off the top and for every app sold, and they're just the platform. So as the car drives itself more, as you're waiting for it to charge, whatever, you're at a friend's house, you're waiting for a friend, they're inside their house getting ready, whatever the situation is. Like a lot of us spend a lot of time in our cars. I was a traveling social worker for a while. I was in my car all the time, and it gets boring. Like, so if you have that big screen and you can watch Netflix, you can that's a whole nother, it's like having a second cell phone. Like to some people that are in their car that often, like it's a big deal to have more things to do in their car. So I think that that shouldn't be overlooked. I think that that'll be a growing part of their revenue, and they can just turn it on whenever they want. They can say, "Hey, do you want this feature? $1,000." Like they did that with the acceleration boost in the all-wheel drive models, I think, where I think it goes from 4.40 to 60 to 3.9. But it's a $2,000 update, and so you just pay them $2,000, and then you update your car, and it's half a second 0 to 60 faster. They didn't do anything. The car could already do that. They just didn't have the software unlocked. Like, so that kind of ingenuity is something that the other car makers they're not catching on to fast enough, and I doubt that they will. Because they're not software companies. Tesla started as a software technology company that's going to make motor vehicles, not the backwards part of that. Where they made motor vehicles for such a long time that are gas burning, and now they got to figure out how to do an electric one. Um, Tesla started as that, so it's easier for them to adapt. Tesla car insurance, I think, will become more and more as like a cash flow mover to the business. Because obviously people are giving you premiums every month. That's really good for the cash flow. So I think that that'll be a big deal as time goes on that people are not necessarily thinking of. Like, I think that that'll help the business stay profitable quarter to quarter more than people think as time goes on. Because I think that they'll inevitably do it anywhere that they want to have the potential of doing full self-driving. The solar roof, I think that's being underappreciated. I think the solar roof and them dropping the prices of solar panels, now they're like 30% cheaper than most other installers. That's a big deal. I think the solar roof, as Elon has said in the past that interest from China and Europe is stronger than he thought it would be. So I mean, if they're doing a million roofs a week between uh, the entire world, even if they're only doing 100,000 roofs a week, the average solar roof is probably going to be going for like 30 to 60 grand. So that kind of revenue generation is ridiculous. Like, they'll have so much revenue at the top line after all of this that between the autopilot revenue realization from the balance sheet, from the energy products, from the car products, from any kind of subscription services that they're doing. Now they're doing the $10 a month subscription service in the car for I think satellite maps and music streaming, and like all of that stuff's just like monthly recurring revenue that they can make money on. And obviously self-driving, all of that kind of stuff is a big deal. But I think the biggest thing that's driving the stock right now is the idea that they get into the S&P 500. So once they're in the S&P 500, it's a big deal because then index funds have to buy them to track the S&P 500. So once index funds have to buy them, there's forced buying pressure. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of shares, if not millions of shares, that need to be bought by these index funds as time goes on, because that's the whole point of the fund. Like they have to mirror the S&P 500, and so if they're not mirroring it, then they're kind of defrauding their shareholders in a way. So those are the things that I think are the biggest and most exciting things about Tesla for the future. At least right now, there's so many other things, along the way that are going to be crazy when they make a cheaper, $25,000 car, what have you. But I still talk to people all the time that think that Tesla vehicles are super expensive, and they're like shocked to know that or find out that you can get one out the door for like 38,000. And if you live in a state like New York, like I do, they take the $2,000 EV credit from New York State right off the top of the bill, so you don't even pay like the sales tax if you get like the $38,000 model. So you're really getting it for like 36, because they're saving $2,000 on sales tax right off the bat. Like so. The car is way more affordable than people give it credit for, because a lot of people have leases that they spend $400 to $700 a month on, and they don't even own that car. Like you could buy the Model 3 right now, standard range plus, with maybe a couple features that you want to add to it or whatever, for like 40 grand, take that $2,000 off the top, and then your monthly payments after putting like 3 or 4 grand down is going to be like $600, maybe mid 500s. That's not bad. That's really not a bad car payment. And especially with the amount of money that you'll save in the long run, you won't pay for oil changes. You'll never have to change the brakes. They'll be good for the life of the vehicle. I mean, the maintenance cost is just, there's nothing there. Like you might have to buy some windshield wipers sometimes, some windshield wiper fluid every once in a while. Other than that, like there's, change the tires every 60,000 to 100,000 miles. That's it. Like you don't have to do anything to the car. So your biggest expense is that monthly payment. Um, so that's kind of more just talking about Tesla ownership as a whole. But the next series of videos that I'm going to do is just more on investing and how to get you started. I've been doing this for like 4.5 years now. I think I started like 2016, like January. And I've owned several stocks, but I gotta say, like, it's much easier to own a stock when it's doing poorly, when you understand and appreciate the stock, and you're like you really believe in the future of the company. Because I've missed out on companies that like I gave up too early on, or um, I could have made a lot more money on the stock, and I was just like, I'm not as like interested in it, or I don't believe in it as much. When really I just should have done a little bit more research. So this channel is all about kind of teaching you guys to do some of the research that I do. You don't have to do it as often and as heavily as I do for any stock, especially as much as I look into Tesla, because if you just watch a YouTube channel, there's a million Tesla YouTube channels now, or you read a few articles a day for a few years, you'd know, like a tenth of what I know, but you'd still know enough to know that it was a good investment, and you would have made money all the way up to 1,400. So it's not necessary that you read that much. It's just always better in anything that you do in life that you're more educated than, the average person in that situation. So, I mean, this is your future. This is your money. So if you're laying out real money for it, treat it as something that's, not going to cause you anxiety and make you crazy. Because anytime I would wake up and the stock was on fire for Tesla, I would be like annoyed, because I'm like, I just, it's just less time or more time that I can't get to that money because I refuse to sell it at a loss. And if I need that money, it's kind of sucks because I'm not taking it out. Like I'll work four jobs if I have to before I'll do that, and take it out at a loss when I know it's gonna go from the 180 it was at last year, right around this time, to 1,400. Like, how much of an asshole would I feel like right now if that's what I had done? So I'm gonna do like some sort of like vlog thing, with a few episodes, just kind of giving you guys a basis. Again, just like this episode, no more than like 15 minutes. Um, and just give you guys the basics of what I look for when I'm looking into a stock that I think could do, 3 to 5x the value of the stock price. So, from 10 to 30 or 40 or 10 to 60, within, 2 to 5 years. Because you really kind of got to be in stock for at least 18 months to 36 months, in my opinion, to see like what you've been, thinking is going to happen with the stock. There's just a time delay, inevitably. Things take time. Might miss a quarter here, a quarter there. The financials don't work themselves out. I mean, the only reason that everything's worked out for Tesla the past, 6 months or so is because finally the business model is proving itself. Cash flow is looking good. They're making a profit. This is probably going to be the fourth quarter in a row that they've pulled out a profit. Even if it's only a little bit of profit, it's still a profit. It's still something that Wall Street can't look at them and say, you guys don't make any money. So now they're being taken more seriously. And also their products are becoming more mainstream. It used to be, it would take you a while driving around, even in a place like New York, to see a Tesla. Now they're everywhere. The Model 3 is the average car. Like, people don't even notice it in traffic anymore. It's becoming a household name. So we'll see. But again, guys, just take care of yourselves. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. I'll put my social media accounts maybe underneath. And reach out to me. A bunch of my friends already have. If you have any questions, I'm just a message away, all right? Take care, guys. I'll see you next time.